Good morning, everyone. This is Randy from Snap Judgments, and I have Clint Goss here today. We're going to go over a bunch of NFL draft stuff, NFL prospects, and kind of get his take on things. Now, you're an Atlanta fan, a Georgia fan. Um, Tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started here.
Yeah, you can find any of my content one-stop shop for the most part at Twitter with my name or my handle that's included right there. Um, Most of my background is in the draft with a little bit of focus on the Falcons, but it's all 32 teams of draft content with enough Falcons that if you don't pull for the Falcons, it won't annoy you. But yeah, as far as some past outlets I've been with, covered the team with Falcons on SI, the Sporting News, 99.1, and cranking up more and more of the draft content as we get here down the stretch. But yes, I realize I'm on a Patriots show as a Falcons guy. Yep.
Well, hey, it's
A
no
little bit of
rivalry
Braves
between.
energy here too to say where I'm from.
Listen, there's no real rivalry between us. We had the one game there, and we won't mention that for your sake.
Womp womp womp. Yeah.
All right, so listen, let's get right into it. Now that the combine is over, what player do you think helped themselves the most? Just pick a guy, any guy, and then anybody whose stock might be cooling off in your mind.
I think we might be discussing a little bit later on, but how do you not mention Mike Washington Jr., running back out of Arkansas? It might sound like a hot take for me to have said that I entered the combine with him as my RB2, but the receipts are there. I really did. I went into the Senior Bowl with him as a top 5 running back. Seeing him up close field level, his short area burst at 6'1", 223. It was eye popping. I mean, there were times out there at the Senior Bowl where we were all looking at each other and being like, that Washington kid's the best player on the field right now. That 4.33 he laid down was something that even I can't say I was expecting. If you'd have told me, oh, he ran 4.39, oh, he ran 4.4, I'd have been like, oh, yeah, dude, I could see that. The 4.33 was just insane to even outrun Jeremiah Love there by a tick. Got to mention him.
Yeah, I
To a
mean the
lesser degree, I'll
1.51
tell you
burst
somebody.
too. Oh, sorry, the
Dude, his short
1.51
areas.
10-yard split. Yeah, that was impressive. He outdid Love on that just by 0.04.
I'm telling you, it was eye popping. And then, real quick, just to throw a less popular answer to the question, I was thrilled to see Georgia State receiver Ted Hirsch run a 4.42. That kind of being the question, just as far as him being a vertical threat. What was the long speed, man? And we can't get desensitized to these 40 times as some of the top shelf ones just get freakier and freakier. It's like, dude, 4.42's hauling ass. That's hauling major ass at 6'3", 205, 207.
Yeah.
Those are two guys that really just showed that they were at a different level than we thought. And actually, I lied. I'd give you one more and then hush. Micah Morris, guard out of Georgia, dude, coming in with a 9.99 RAS. Like, I say this as familiar with him in recruitment at Camden County here in Georgia, obviously playing at UGA. I'm a UGA person. We knew he was freaky. We ain't know he was that freaky. I mean, that's somebody that's definitely now shown himself that it's like, oh, yeah, his experience, athletic ability, there's starter upside day 3 at a guard spot. He is built like a Ford pickup truck, man. So that'd be 3.
Nice. Yeah. Mike Washington was actually the first guy that I had on my list to talk about. That 40 time was amazing. Like I said, the 10-yard split, that's really what catches my eye. I think he was the best among the running backs there. I had a friend who was down at the Senior Bowl, and he came out saying the same things. He was just so impressed by him. So yeah, I mean, we kind of already touched on him. Let's talk about a couple other running backs that they didn't really pop quite so much at the combine, but they're still talented guys, and I know folks that are real high on them. And let's start with Robert Henry here out of UTSA.
Yeah. I hear you that he didn't necessarily pop in Indianapolis. But I'd go back to the, don't get desensitized comment. It's like, hell, we're saying all that. He ran a 4.52, had a 4.31 shuttle time. It's just not really his game as much, being, he's a little bit more compact stature along the lines of like a 5'9" kind of build. But second highest explosive run rate of the class as far as this past season. So, I mean, that's a case of game speed, tape, tying in things such as his vision and patience, and the production. I like Henry Jr. and I enjoyed watching, him being at UTSA. You got him some during the week. He's somebody that wasn't necessarily going to be a star in Indianapolis, but you fall back on the tape. Like I said, that explosive run rate being up there at the top of the class, that's what teams will lean on more. I thought the 4.52 was okay. Shouldn't be too disgruntled about that performance.
Okay, and then the next guy that I had on my list was Emmett Johnson out of Nebraska. I know folks that were real high on him, and again, another guy. Combine performance wasn't eye popping, it wasn't terrible, but he wasn't great. It wasn't even good, really. What do you think about? What do you think about him? I'm trying not to down talk the guy. Okay, he's a good kid, I'm sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't down talk him either. The 4.58 was disappointing. It was. I think he'd tell you the same thing. For somebody that on tape, he's so good in space, guy that'll hit a spin move, can outdance somebody. The 1.61 10-yard wasn't either. He came in about 58th, 59th percentile athlete. I think that was a little disappointing in itself, particularly to be, no heavier than 202 pounds at weigh-in. But his explosiveness grade was fine. I mean, a 35.5-inch vert, 10-foot broad, was better than that overall score that he had in terms of athleticism. But look, somebody who wants that intermediate of the field ability to kind of shake somebody out of a phone booth, he's ultimately going to end up being fine as far as his draft capital. But look, I mean, that's what we see every year. Speaking on the running back class, the market having some shift from what we see in Indianapolis. Like, yeah, if you're a team that's like, we really want more of the higher potential, toolsier athlete to work with here in the third, fourth round, yeah, you're going to be more jazzed up about a Mike Washington Jr., et cetera, coming out of Indianapolis than Johnson. But if you're somebody that just wants to lean on the tape, guy can outdance somebody in the open field, could get a discount here now that his stock has likely gone down a little bit. He's there. I mean, I'm not necessarily comparing him to this player, but it's just a real-time example of where this has happened. Like, take Bucky Irving. When he came out of the combine, I mean, he tested even worse than this. He was like 37th percent athlete or something. And it was just an absolute star for the Bucs. They got him in the 5th round. That's a real-time example of that archetype of running back. The opportunity is going to be there. He's going to be fine.
And do you think that's the range for these two guys, maybe like mid day 3, late day 3, or do you think they end up priority free agents?
No, I think Johnson definitely gets drafted. I think going to Indianapolis, there might have been some people that had, late 3rd buzz on him, but he's probably comfortably top a day 3. But like what I just said with the Bucky Irving comment, the 5th, I imagine he goes before Henry. He will. But I could see Henry getting drafted. I mean, off the top of my head, I think it's something like 20, 25 running backs get drafted. This class at the top of it and all the way to the bottom, they fit in there. This isn't completely star-studded by any means. I think they both get drafted.
Okay. All right.
And look, and not to throw it back, real quick, talking about Henry. But I mean, look, man, you're talking about a guy that was a 0-star recruit and was a junior college running back from his start. And I say that just to say, it's like, you tell this guy, yeah, you had a good, solid combine and you're heading to the NFL draft and we think you go and say the 5th round. It's like, dude, that's that's a W beyond W beyond W, man. He's in a good spot.
Who was it that Henry put up the real big game against? A&M, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, which
I'm
particularly
looking
in
at it
that
right now.
market of Texas, it's
177 yards, 2 touchdowns on 16 carries against A&M this year.
yeah, A&M that had the most combine invites of any college.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be those guys. All right, so listen, let's move along to the offensive line here. I'm a big fan of Emil Wagner. I was coming out of the Shrine Bowl. I thought he looked really good there. Coming into the season, he needed to gain weight. He was listed at like 290 coming into the year. He put on that weight because he showed up the Shrine Bowl and the combine about 306 right there at the combine. What do you think about his traits? His RAS score is pretty good. What do you think about his traits, his projection? Where do you think he ends up going? He's a favorite target of mine in like round 4.
For you see there for him to be about 89th percentile, frankly, I thought he was going to run the 40 a tick faster. So I think like I wouldn't be surprised if he said that he thought he was going to be closer to a 4.9 guy, and that would have put him up there in the 90s. So just that little bit of difference, not that big a deal. But I thought the 306 was really promising for him. Even though I know it's the numbers in the red right there. It's like, but yeah, you give and take some of that for, I mean, look how lengthy he is, 34.5-inch arms, had a really good 20-yard split. The 40's great, the long speed, getting downfield. He's real toolsy. I thought he killed it at the Shrine Bowl. So he was somebody I really had circled. I mean, going back to the 40 comment, like I'd projected every position's fastest 40 going into the draft or going into the combine. And I was no lower than third in terms of the actual result at any position other than tackle. I had Wagner, and he ended up with the 5th fastest 40 time of the tackles. So I really do think he didn't test quite as well there as you might actually have. And not that that's that big a deal with the tackles, but just standing out in a group. But no, I think, you mentioned you like him as a 4th-round target for y'all, particularly for some team that has the time and the flexibility to let him keep developing a little bit. There's definitely ability there. And look, saying Notre Dame offensive lineman is kind of one of those brands that more often than not, you don't really screw it up. Like, yeah, we took an Iowa lineman, we took an Ohio State receiver, we took a Georgia linebacker, et cetera, et cetera. In the terms of you guys, I do like that mention. And I do think he's somebody that gets taken on day 3 with somebody intending being able to develop him into a starter.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, that makes sense for us because we have, Morgan Moses here who's, on the real back 9 of his career, really like the back 3, back 2 maybe. Who is a super willing and able mentor, to these young guys out here, so it would make a lot of sense to me. Now, look, we've got a number of big tackles in this class, and, leading the way on that conversation for me, Demetrius Crownover out of Texas A&M. I saw him down at the Senior Bowl, and kind of coming in, the question with these real big, tall, long guys is how can he handle speed? And I thought he did pretty well down there, handling. I think it was Romello Height that he was lined up against a couple times there, and I thought he looked good in those situations. What do you think about him coming out of both the Senior Bowl, the Combine, and his draft projection? And if you want to just compare and contrast him with Markel Bell and Travis Burke, because those are very similarly built prospects.
Yeah, it was Romello Height. There were some of those notorious speed reps that he had at the Senior Bowl that he held really well. Yeah, I was a little surprised, not surprised, but for all the buzz coming out of Indianapolis to have been about Markel Bell at 6'9", 340, having those 36 and 3/8-inch arms. I think and that's outstanding. But I think a little bit of that buzz should have been shifted over to the fact that Crownover had 35 and 3/8-inch arms at 6'7 1/4. I mean, that's give or take, considering Bell at 6'9" is just so gassily large. It's like for him to have 35 plus inch arms, it's at more of the conventional 6'7" range for a tackle. That is excellent. And going back to your, him handling Romello Height very well at the Senior Bowl, it's like, yeah, he can make up for some of that large size he has with just his length is dominating. It's engulfing. I liked him down there as well, and I thought he tested well. I mean, for him to come in at that size and run a 5.15, that's money, man. That's money. I mean, at 319 pounds, a 1.8 10-yard split, and the experience is there as well. Like, there's a comfort level in the fact he's got 28 starts at right tackle playing in the SEC. I like Crownover, similarly, but I think maybe more strongly than I said about Wagner. It's like, this is a guy that gets taken with the intentions to develop into a starter.
Okay.
No, I mean, I think too, it's an opportunity to stand out for him in a class more so than any class have done in the last few years. And I think most anybody would agree with this. It felt like we're sitting here like, oh, this guy's got 32-inch arms. Oh, this guy's got short arms. Oh, should he kick inside? It's like, no, you're not saying that about this big boy with 35-inch arms.
Right. Now,
35
what do you
plus
think
inch
about
arms.
the
It's
third
like,
guy?
nah, man, that's a right tackle all the way.
Right. Now, what do you
Travis
think about
Burke?
the third guy on the list? Yeah, Travis
Look.
Burke. Listen, he didn't have the go-go gadget arms, right? Just 34 and a quarter, but 6'8" 3/4, he came in 325. The Patriots have him on their radar, so we're curious about him up here.
Well, I'm even more familiar with the fact he was the first announced 30 visit for my Falcons.
Okay.
I mean, he's somebody that's getting a lot of buzz across a couple of teams, and it makes sense. I mean, you're talking about, he's coming out of Memphis. He's a transfer initially at Gardner-Webb, transferred up to Florida International, then ultimately at Memphis. But I mean, hell, he's out of Hollywood, Florida. I mean, most anybody out of there, particularly offensive line, there's a lot of athleticism, particularly at his size, like you said, 6'8", 6'9" kind of guy, 315, 320 kind of guy. And he's mean, dude. Like, he's mean in the run game, seeks violence, it uses his size to be imposing. This isn't a big teddy bear. This is a big, mean dude. And the experience is there's volume to it. I mean, 29 starts at left tackle, 16 at right tackle. He's going to be a dream swing tackle for a team to take with the intentions of developing to take over a spot. Likely right tackle, if I had to guess. Like, I'm speaking in the context of my Falcons real quick. They're definitely looking at him to say, we need to get a new swing tackle in here. Caleb McGarry's got another year, maybe two. If I had to guess, I'd say closer to 1 than 2. Coming off an injury at that right tackle spot, I guarantee their intentions are to say, we're going to have him at swing. Jake Matthews could get run over by a car, and he's still going to play on Sunday at left tackle, so he's probably fine. But, McGarry goes down. That's like last season. He missed the whole season. What we were trotting out there, it was less than stellar. Like, it's but I mean, I think he's somebody they're looking at
there.
Yeah. With the potential to develop ultimately to a start. Like, I was thrilled to see that 30 visit confirmation as far as the Falcons. And I would tell your Patriots too, to be thrilled as far as that. He's a hot name, man. And like I said, first team all conference guy, 45 starts, all that size, mean in the run game, and more development to come. He's somebody I really like on day 3, and I think is bigger. And, we're catching on. I'm sure other media circles are catching on. But I think even right now at this moment, leagues higher on Burke than media is. We're catching up to where the league already was on the guy.
That makes sense. Yeah, I like that. From a Patriots perspective, one of the things that caught my ear at the combine is they asked Elliott Wolf, do you think tackle's a position of need? And he was like, well, we've got Will, and they've been very committed to Will on the left. And he said, look, Morgan is on the right, but he's old, essentially. And then he said, Thayer Munford Jr. is a free agent. So, yeah, tackle is a position to need. One name he didn't mention in that breath was Marcus Bryant, who's under contract, was drafted in the 7th round last year. And people thought might develop into a swing tackler, a backup right tackle. But it seems to me like maybe the team's not real high on him. And Travis Bryant could be the new Bryant at tackle in New England, I guess. Of the three, who do you think's got the highest ceiling? Who do you think's got the safest floor? And let me throw one more thing in there because as I'm looking at their measurements, the one thing that stands out to me, I'm a big hand size guy. I like hand size. I like if you're a big guy, I almost look at you as like a fake big guy if you've got like under 9-inch hands. And Markel Bell's 9-inch hands. Now the other two north of 10. Is that a difference maker for you? And, I'll throw in there one of the big misses I think the combine has is to not have a grip strength measurement of some sort. If I was an NFL GM and I had 18 minutes with these guys, first thing I'd do is put one of them grip strength things on the table and say, here, do this while we're talking.
Yeah, try and break this. That's a great mention as far as the hand size and Bell. To answer your question, I just said it beforehand, even that. I think the highest floor is Crownover. I think the SEC experience, 28 starts, the arm length, his size, and the testing you got out of him, that profile is probably the safest floor. I think Burke's got the highest ceiling. I really do. I think for you to project best football ahead of him as somebody that's transferred up, but has all that experience, has the you can't teach motor, and like I've said 2 or 3 times, he's mean. This isn't some big guy, oh, we need to get him more fired up. It's like, no, he wants to go hurt somebody. That's a pretty easy one to me. With Bell kind of being in the middle, I understand the excitement with his size of betting on that, but I also just wonder a little bit if he's just like too freaky big.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the hand comment, but no, that's an easy response for me as far as floor ceiling.
Okay. All right. That makes sense to me. Yeah, I did think I with the speed game comment too, as far as Crownover looked good. I thought Bell was kind of the other way. There are guys that were just kind of ducking under him, skirting around him, beyond the one play where he got blown up by Derek Moore. And, we're not going to mention that too much because Bell's going to have children. He needs to feed someday. All right. And we don't want to contribute against that. Listen, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this tweet here. You had made it, I didn't include the date, but it was
you got a date on that?
Okay. No, it was pretty recent though. What, a week or two ago, maybe in the last couple of weeks. But yeah, so this was something that you would put here. Now, number one, I am on the investigation trail of Max Ihin Acor, not just to figure out how to say his name, but I'd also like to figure out if this guy is as old as I am. I've done all kinds of research into this, way more than anybody should, to be honest. But I just like getting answers when I don't have an answer. And I thought it was weird that we didn't have an answer to Max Ihin Acor's age.
If I could go back, I had a great interview with Max at the Senior Bowl. If I could, I would have just like done the awkward, like, almost like never ask a lady her age on a date. I'd been like, hey, so like great interview. By the way, when's your birthday? Yeah, I didn't, but I would have. From all I've read and vibes, yeah, he's going to be more of like a 24, 25-year-old prospect. But we'll get an answer down the stretch here. But I mean, was such a nice guy for him to. It was like I said, for him to have been the one who, whether he instigated or it was instigated versus him, for him to have been the one at the Senior Bowl that got in 2 or 3 little skirmishes with opposition. He was about the friendliest and most soft-spoken guy that I interviewed of the 15 or 20 I did, which that's that turn the switch on, turn the switch off kind of player that you really like. It's covered up. What team did I have him to there?
Us, the Patriots. But yeah, sorry.
Okay, all right.
Covered up with the banner.
There you go. I see now. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
I mean
why it
that
got my
tweet.
attention.
Yeah, I think in terms of y'all looking at that list, post combine, free agency here in a few days. Malago is not relevant. Fano is not relevant. Freeling's not relevant. It'd be Miller, Lomu, or Hainachor. Though Lomu,
Or
I
this
mean, it's
guy.
yeah, Blake Miller, I'm higher on. Which I say that I'm gonna tell you, man, and I have a solid network myself. When I was talking in Senior Bowl, it was over and over out here. Oh, I got Miller's tackle 1, tackle 3, tackle 4, tackle 2, tackle 3. Oh, I'm higher. It's like I think there's more real buzz on the guy than we're even feeling. I mean, you're
Okay.
talking about somebody 54 starts at Clemson. I mean, this guy's never missed a game. He's kind of like I said about Jake Matthews. Like this, Miller could get hit by a car and would still go play on Saturday. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. I mean, literally, he had surgery and missed one practice.
to the point that like Clemson staff was being like, "What the hell are you doing here? Like why are you dressed out, dude? Go drink a Gatorade."
Right. Like,
I
what are you
think he's
talking about?
like
This is
that.
what
I
I
mean,
do.
this is what I do. Yeah, but I mean, for him to have that 6'6", 6'7" body, every bit of the weight needed, he's more like I said earlier, we talked so many in this class. Oh, he's a little light in the jeans. Oh, he's got 32-inch arms. It's like, no, this guy's got the prototype size at right tackle, and he's ready to roll. Um, I like him there a lot for your Patriots, man. And talk about somebody that I think what we just said, his attitude and his background. It's like, could you not see him and Vrabel just drinking each other's Kool-Aid? Like, just
Exactly.
ready to roll
Yeah.
with a young quarterback, all business. Oh, yeah. Like, I really like him there. And I do think there's a world, I would imagine his ceiling is in that 28 to the Texans and then you all at 31 range. And he's not, I don't think he's fallen any further than, say, the Raiders at 36. Like, I would say his range is 28 to 36. I think he's worth it. Um, just a really high floor player. So no,
Mm.
you can hear me talking about him. I like Miller a lot. And I mean, look, I don't have the exact number. I should have it on me, but I mean, he tested about 96 percentile at the combine. It's like, oh yeah, he's athletic as hell.
Yeah, no, he had a good day. Certainly, he ran a 5.04 with a 1.75 split, 32-inch vert, over a 9-foot broad, 9 foot 5 inch broad. Very good day for Blake Miller. And talking about guys who at the tackle position who had a very good day and were mentioned in that tweet. Here's a guy I know you know. I was high on this guy last week, last Monday. So before the combine, before they even showed up to the combine, measured, tested any of that, I had him going sixth to the Browns. Now I know your most recent mock draft also has him going sixth to the Browns. So we are in lockstep on this, sir. Um, so yeah, just give us your Georgia guy. You know more about him than most people. Give us a little breakdown on Freeling
Yeah,
and tell me how you think he might fit in here in New England if they were interested in him and he were available.
I tell you that, not to act like I'm a Hardy boy or anything, but I did think it was interesting on his combine Instagram. He posted that Caleb Lomu commented with a gif of Miles Garrett dancing around, and that's Caleb Lomu, who's Spencer Fanau's roommate and best friend.
Yeah.
But I think with that move the Browns did recently, trading for Titus Howard at the right tackle spot, all but told you they're looking left tackle as far as the early first round. And two, like you mentioned, the Georgia connection for myself. I mean, Todd Monken won 2 national championships calling plays in Athens. He and Kirby are very familiar with each other. He has as good a connections to that program as any head coach in the league. I think that's factual more so than speculative.
Yeah.
I went into the combine with Freeling as my tackle 1, and whether that's a hot take or not, I think the prototype size, I mean, he's every bit 6'7", 315, and this is a redshirt sophomore. I mean, this is a young guy who's got his best ahead of him, can keep even filling out his body a little bit, not a lot, a little bit. Um, he's got lengthy arms. I mean, I believe it was 34 and 3/4 inch arms. Um, tested 99th percentile kind of athletically. You see the lateral movement. I don't think his on-field workout was as good as some of, say, like Fanow. He's got to work a little bit on his wide base as far as keeping his feet under him. But that's the kind of thing that somebody, an NFL offensive line coach is like, this isn't hard, man. He's a young kid. This is something to tweak. But the tools, the traits, and the fact he's specifically a left tackle, yeah, he's got about 200 right tackle snaps in his 2 seasons in Athens. Got 16 starts worth of playing. But he's a left tackle. I mean, with these kind of tools and traits and the lack of volume of the position, he's somebody that, we talk in terms of free agency. It's like, you're not going to find a left tackle in free agency, man. You got to draft these guys early and develop them. And for that reason, he's going to be a dream. I think he's all but locked. I really do. I think he's all but locked into Cleveland. I think you could just about hire a realtor.
No. I mean, and you touched on it there, and that was my biggest reasoning, honestly, because I have a lot of people who have talked to me and in response to my mock draft and said, why? Like, why? Show me on his tape why, and that sort of thing. And I said, look, I know there are shortcomings. I'm not like an offensive line scout or something like that. I can't see all the details that some people can, but I know there were shortcomings. I know he came on later in the year too. His run blocking cleaned up a little bit, and that was one of his bigger issues. But what I said to them is scarcity. It's just economics. Try to get a left tackle in free agency year after year after year. Believe me, as a Patriots fan, we've been looking. They're not there.
Well, hey, then
we've been looking with a big old check.
There's a perspective number. You're going to write a huge check, and this isn't a stray, but the best you're going to walk out with is Dan Moore.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you're going to overpay him, and then you're going to be mad. And it's like, you've got to take your swings when you have a chance. And right now they have a chance and a need. And, sometimes those things line up in such a way that it's like, it's just a no brainer to me. And Monroe Freeling, for me, after the combine, I like to go. I was just going to
say,
yeah.
We're playing a little bit of phone tag here. No, I was just going to say, like I said, he's a redshirt sophomore. This is a guy we signed out of the state of South Carolina at 270 pounds. I mean, as far as some of his wide base and still a little bit of development there, it's like, dude, the kid's gained like 40 to 50 pounds while playing simultaneously here in the SEC. It's like, look, and, think back to when you were playing Little League Baseball and the kid that went through puberty earlier than everyone else and was 6 feet tall trying to catch up a little bit. It's like, this isn't unconventional for him. Just adding to what you were saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's super athletic. Coming out of the combine, like, I like to go through the positions and kind of like set benchmarks, if you will, of like, better performances, and then kind of green flag, red flag. And Monroe Freeling was the only guy who green flagged across the board. And it wasn't even like no red flag, it was no question, all green all the way across. It's the 5-second 40, the 1/8 split, and so 34-inch arms, et cetera, like everything, measurements, testing wise. It just really impressed me. So in your opinion, from an outsider's perspective, which tackle would be the best Patriots fit?
I think the conversation would just have to be Blake Miller or Ahina Shore. I tell you, for y'all to be a team that was just in the Super Bowl and wants to go hit it again this year, if I had to pick one answer, I'd go Blake Miller, because I think he's more prepared than Ahina Shore. I think, the 54 starts versus what you've seen out of Max. Max is somebody that transferred up from, it blew me away. He told me in our interview that when he, migrated here from Nigeria at 13 years old, didn't start playing football until high school.
I just need the year. That's all.
I know. I told you, if I could go back, he's like, yeah, I moved here when I was 13, and been like, yeah, what year was that actually?
Yeah. Who was president?
Yeah, learn from your mistakes and do better next time. Next year, I'm going to work those in Mobile. But, didn't start playing football till high school. signed with East Los Angeles Community College. He told me in the 240s.
Yeah.
I think that kind of body transformation, that kind of just newer to the game versus a Miller. I'd answer Blake Miller. That's the one. If I was in the war room with you all, I'd be looking around, being like, "We're going to be hard pressed to screw this up, man."
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I've had Blake Miller picked to the Patriots in a couple mock drafts that I've done this far. I will say, Iheanacho, the athleticism runs in the family because he's got a younger brother who is a freshman at SMU right now playing linebacker. So interesting prospect, even if he is a little old. I worry about the pairing of raw and needs a development with older. That's tough for me. I think he's a second round pick at best. But so listen, let's stay on the offensive line. Let's slide to the interior. There's a number of prospects that I like in there. And let's talk first. We've got Jeremiah Wright. I'm a big fan of Jeremiah Wright. What do you think about him? I liked him at the Senior Bowl. The one rep that really stood out to me was, and I know LT Overton's not like a dominant pass rusher or whatever, but lining up against, well, yeah, and lining up against a rival like that in a situation like that where you're being surrounded, like this is a schoolyard fight or something, and winning that to me, I just liked that. So yeah, tell us a little bit about Jeremiah Wright.
Yeah, I mean, really engulfing size, 6'5", 331. Good arm length for the interior at 33 and an eighth. Got those 10-inch hands like you were talking about. I think the coolest thing I saw coming out of Combine Week with him is that right now he is working directly with and has kind of had a mentor relationship with Bengals legend Willie Anderson. Willie was a 3-time first-team All-Pro in the league, man. With the Bengals, played at Auburn. That's the connection. But nearly similar size. Willie had a little more sand in the jeans, about 10 pounds. But, I mean, similar profiles. That got me fired up. I was chatting with some Bengals fans in the last few days being like, man, wouldn't that be some cool shit? But, yeah, I mean, incredibly well coached, big size guy. I remember specifically that battle he had with LT Overton that you're talking about. Everyone kind of hyping that up from the Iron Bowl. And I kid you not, I was sitting right next to Overton's family during that in the stands. His dad is the AD here at Kennesaw State. Brother has played collegiately as well. His whole family you look at, you're like, yeah, genetics are real. Genetics are real. Oh yeah, definitely. I'm looking at myself, real tall, leaner guy. I'm like, man, would have been cool if my dad played in the league and I could have done that shit, but I like Wright. I think he's a name that needs to get some more pub where we are, March 5th, leading up the last 6-7 weeks. That's a good mention. And two, I like guys for all the versatility about, this guy can play here, this guy can play there. Sometimes it's just refreshing to hear like, nah, this dude's a 330-pound big ass guard, man. Yeah. So no, I like him there. And in the context of your Patriots, I so badly just want to see y'all get what I just said. This dude's a guard. He's a guard. And I want to move Jared Wilson back to center where he belongs. So for that reason, that would be satisfying.
Yes, I could not agree more. All right, so sticking with the guards, here's another guy I like. Now I see him a lot. I see him on a lot of boards top 100, but I've also talked to guys who don't have him in their top 300. So Billy Shrouth, Notre Dame. What do you know about him? I like the C on the chest right there. I like captains. I like leaders. Tell me a little bit about Billy Shrouth.
Yeah, I think as far as the guard spot, he offers a lot of versatility. 22 starts at Notre Dame, 16 at left guard, 6 at right guard. So enough of a taste at right guard if that's what you need. A little bit of injury battles the last 2 years. He missed, the fact he's had 22 starts and had to miss 9 games in the last 2 years, kind of bad on a foot and an ankle. Is impressive in himself, how much, how early he got himself in that starting lineup in a notorious Notre Dame offensive line. But, this is a pass pro guy. This isn't more along the lines of 6'5", 305, little lighter guard versus say like we just talked about Jeremiah Wright at 330. Not as much of a grader, but I mean, yeah, for your identity of your team to be Drake May being a top 5 running quarterback in the league, this is a fit there. Culturally, him coming from the Midwest, you guys in the Northeast, playing the cold weather. But I mean, he's a strong puller, really good mover. Got wide shoulders. You can see in the photo right there displayed. Wonder if you can keep developing him a little bit. I'll tell you, you talked earlier about that you'd make him have a grip strength test. This is somebody that's got that. So I think it'd be a nice fit with New England. Going back to your comment about top 100, top 300, people that don't have him in the top 300, I think that's being a little dramatic. I don't think I would have him top 100, but I think I'd be closer to that than the not in the 300. We say 256, 257 guys get drafted. He needs to get drafted. I mean, he's a Notre Dame lineman with 22 starts. He's got the size profile. Like you see, he's a captain right there, cultural fit for most anywhere. So there's a lot to like there on Stroud. Would be interested. Teams have so much more information than we do on the medicals, just to see how they feel. Like I said, he's kind of battled an ankle, a lower leg here and there, nothing super serious, but just as far as, in the context of you all, you're a team trying to hit the ground running and take another run at it as many times as you can, particularly with May on his rookie deal. I like Stroud. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for the look into that guy because like I said, he's relatively new to me, but I've liked what I've seen so far. Moving back to another big guy there. Let's talk about Inez Cooper. I've seen some good highlights of him. Now, the Patriots organization has deep ties into Miami. Okay, there are a lot of guys here, particularly in our scouting department. Alonzo Highsmith was the general manager at Miami just like 2 years ago. His son, AJ Highsmith, went there, also works for us. A few other guys in the building. Inez Cooper, big, strong guy, heavy hands. You mentioned Billy Stroud's hands, by the way, 10 and a quarter inches. Inez Cooper, big, strong guy, heavy hands, 34-inch arms, 10-inch hands. I saw one clip where he was coming out and run blocking and just levels the linebacker. And I mean, it looked like he barely touched him. What do you think about this guy? I think he would be a great developmental prospect, maybe in like the 6th round that we could bring up behind Mike Onwenu to kind of be like the successor to Mike Onwenu.
I first start with, you said the developmental comment, and it's kind of like you said earlier when you were talking about Max. It's like, but difference here, it's like Cooper's played 3,100 starts, 3,100 snaps at Miami. So it's like, yeah, there's still stuff to work on and develop that can be fine-tuned, but you're also not getting somebody that's green. It's like this dude's got a ton of ACC college football playoff experience. It's like, no, he's not a deer in the headlights as far as to work with. 6'6", 334. I mean, talk about a guy that could get after a country style buffet line. I got excited. I saw, and I know they meet with a lot of teams, but as far as a formal meeting, he had a formal meeting with the Texans. I leaned back in my chair when I read that, and I was like, man, talk about somebody that could use him as just a massive bully ball, to your comment about just barely touch someone and they flew. I was like, man, I like that fit. 34-inch arms on the interior. That's a lot of length, a lot of size leaning on you. I really like him as an interior beefy option for teams that have a need there. And to your point, if you have the ability to bring him in a little slowly. No, I like Cooper, man. I mean, he's somebody that's prepared. And look, kind of like we talked about, this Notre Dame lineman, it's like Mario Cristobal, pound for pound, is probably the best offensive line coach in college football with that specialty. It's like those Miami offensive linemen are coached as well as anybody you're going to find nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll tell you, the good news that came out of what you just said is the fact that somebody in Houston is aware you have to have offensive linemen, 'cause I'm not 100% sure that they know that there.
They're gonna have to make a
The
statement.
Yeah, seriously, they're gonna have to make a run. They're gonna have to draft like 5 offensive linemen in the draft. The Miami thing is interesting to me because it's like all the prospects that come out of Miami are old. Like, nobody wants to leave school at Miami, okay? They love it there. Mohamed Torres,
Yeah, you know,
I
when I
thought
was
he was gonna play. He
21,
went back at
22,
26, man.
if I'd have been making 6, 7 figures in South Beach, I wouldn't have made it out of town alive. So I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's understandable. Look, Jalen Farmer is, the next guy I had, and that was because I pulled up this tweet from you. You had talked about his, performance at the combine. So, what was the RAS score? I don't have it here. I have it somewhere here. But anyway, give us a quick rundown on Jalen Farmer. I believe this is somebody the Patriots at 969 RAS. I believe this is somebody the Patriots have met with already at the combine. So we have some interest in him and would like to know a little bit about him.
I mean, just look at that photo of him right there. I mean, is that not a good looking son of a bitch? Like, that's a good looking big boy right there. I mean, I'll tell you, I had a little familiarity heading into the Senior Bowl, but I gained a lot from him at the Senior Bowl. I mean, you can see when I wrote up there, it hit an offensive line best 17.07 miles per hour, with second and third place just being ticking over 16 and 14. I remember seeing that on the big board at Mobile and being like, what? Like, are you what? Because I mean, he's every bit of 6'5, 312. We talked about the interior having 34 and a quarter inch arms. I mean, this guy's
Yeah.
some prototype looking stuff. Plenty mean seeks contact. He hung very well in the 101s in Mobile. And I'll tell you, when we talked at the beginning of the episode, when you said who's somebody that you think just really raised their stock, really got their name out there more, I think if you look at more of the average person, maybe just getting into looking at guys for the draft and picking it up versus someone who's a psycho like myself, it's like you're looking at this dude out in Indianapolis being like, who the hell is that? I think there's going to be some teams that have him really high on their board. I mean, the athletic tools, the experience with him, like it says right there, a Florida transfer, played at 2 big programs. I really like Farmer a lot. Like, I think that guy's got to be a top 5 guard in this class. He's got starter ability, starter potential. And look, I understand, offensive linemen aren't going to be running 40 yards downfield most times. But that 17 plus miles an hour just as a testament to his dominating athleticism with the traits such as that arm length. Dude, you're an offensive line coach. Like, let's go back to y'all specifically. Like, we talked about, oh man, I want to get a guard who's a guard, so I can look at Jarrett Wilson and be like, you're a center, brother. Check the box. Like no involvement. Like, we're not going to be taking a guard that high, the Falcons. So like, he's not someone that I'm like, from a non-bias, just I cover all the teams in the draft, would love to see Farmer go to New England.
Yeah, no, and I like you keep mentioning the Jared Wilson thing. I've been heavy on that. It's like, listen, he was terrible at left guard. He seems like a great kid. Yeah, it was so bad. It was so hard to watch. And I was like watching rankings and stuff. I don't know what the rankings were doing because for the first half of the season, they were ranking him high. And I'm like, I'm sitting here. I watched him just get abused in the Pittsburgh game. And I mean, that one stuck out for whatever reason. It was so bad. So bad. But I think he'd be a good center because he's quick thinking, athletic, smart. Guys were shouting him out during the summer as looking real good. And it's like, no, not at left guard. Not at left guard.
That's got to be one of, if not the top priority in this draft, is being like, we've got to get this kid properly aligned or we're going to lose him.
Well, and my take is what they really need to do is they need to go out there and get like Joel Bitonio or Kevin Zeitler, someone like with some serious experience, put him there at left guard, slide Wilson as center, and now you've got some experience between Campbell and Wilson that can kind of help them make some sense out of the things that have been confusing them throughout their rookie year, and get them settled into the right position, get the experience between them. I just think you fix a lot of problems on the offensive line doing that. And then, fourth round, something like that, you target one of these guys and develop him behind Zeitler, Batonio, whoever it is, for a year until they retire.
Completely agree.
So moving over to the defensive side of the ball, there's a couple guys on the defensive line that I'd like to chat about. And the first one's Caleb Proctor. I thought I had a graphic for him, but I can't find it. So, look, the Patriots talked to him at the combine. You recently highlighted him. And let's talk about his size, his athletic profile, what you think his role in an NFL front would be, and how it might fit here in New England, where they basically they talked to Milton Williams in the summer, and they said, what's the difference between here and Philly? And he said, man, they don't want us to do anything here but get after the quarterback. It's so easy. So how do you think Caleb Proctor fits in a scheme like that?
No, I mean, he's going to be a pass rusher. He's going to be somebody, 290, 291, knows how to get skinny in between gaps, shooting after the quarterback. I was amazed. Talk about someone, he came in the Senior Bowl at 275. He must not have eaten for a month leading into the Senior Bowl, because, he came into the combine at 291. That's a hell of a transformation in such a short amount of time. But even putting that weight back on, I'm like, man, I wonder what he would run at the Senior Bowl, because he ran a 4.79 at 291. 33-inch vert, 33-inch arms, 9.5 broad. I had down here that was the fourth fastest interior defensive line speed in the last 4 combines at 291. So, I mean, oh my God, if he had ran at the Senior Bowl, he really would have blown up. But, he's somebody that I think going into Mobile, if you'd ask kind of consensus draft media, they'd have, oh, yeah, I've kind of watched him some. He's, mid-day 3 guy, yeah. I'm like, I see the ability there for him to even sneak himself into the bottom of day 2. It's like, I really like this dude out of Southeastern Louisiana. He was the conference player of the year as a defensive interior. That in itself, I don't care where you play, it's pretty awesome. 43 tackles, 13 tackles for loss, 9 sacks on the interior. He's a pass rusher, man. You saw the juice in the on-field workouts. He's one of the more fun ones, and I'd be interested to just see him at his pro day leading, this last stretch here, the last few weeks. But, kind of like earlier in the episode, we said somebody that really created a lot of buzz for themselves. This would be a little more kind of like I said, I'm a psycho versus the average. If you ask the psychos that do this stuff, you'd get some people that'd be like, that Caleb Proctor kid looks like a player, man. So he got me really excited coming to Indianapolis. I mean, and to your point, you said about Mill Williams, though, they want him to get after the quarterback. That's the kind of team that's going to be seeking Proctor. That's the kind of team that in an ideal world, Proctor is going to be seeking them. It's like, dude, I want to get skinny on this interior. There's versatility with me. I want to go put the quarterback on his ass.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes sense to me. He seems like he would be a fit here in this scheme, schematically. We typically like our guys a little bit bigger on the defensive line, but now this brings me to a pair of edge rushers. They're coming out of the same school, and that is Nigel Kelly and Malachi Lawrence. So, they're very different prospects. They both incredibly long between the two of them. They could practically touch sideline to sideline if they just want a fingertip, right? Nigel and Kelly in particular. Kelly didn't test incredibly well. I mean, he's got some size, but he was a little slower out of the blocks than I like in an edge rusher. Malachi Lawrence, on the other hand, very good numbers. What do you think about these guys and how they might, as it relates to a fit here in New England?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're talking about a real difference athletically. I think if you watch the tape, you're going to catch your eyes going to Lawrence just because he's more eye pop and he's more productive, more upside. I think Lawrence is more the conversation of he's going to go day 2 versus Kelly's a guy who's trying to get himself drafted. but I mean, it's 6'5", 256, had the fourth longest arms at sub 260 we've seen at the combine since 2011. So in terms of just something that stands out, something that makes him different with his body habitus, that's really interesting. I mean, look, he's got 8.5 sacks the last 2 seasons. Transferred to UCF from Miami. So enough of a recruiting background, to ultimately wind up at Miami. Really got a Florida guy. And 35 in the 1/8 inch arms. I mean, that's just freaky, dude. I mean, there's something to work with there. I don't think I think there is this ceiling of potential because of his athleticism that you'd have to work with. But, I think as a late round guy, if somebody wanted to take a flyer on the traits of the long arms as a sub 260 and some solid production. And, hell, he's a South Florida football player. Those are some easy bets sometimes. But there's much more reason to get fired up about Lawrence because, I mean, as you see it pulled up right there, you got a 99th percentile athlete, 33 and 5/8 inch arms. And frankly, looking at the tape and kind of the early buzz months ago, I thought he was going to be closer to 35 inch arms. I mean, he plays long. You get every bit of his 6'4", 253. And some of that maybe pops a little bit more. I mean, look, a 4.52 at that size. I go back to my "we can't get desensitized" comment. For you to be 6'4", 253, running a 4.52 in the 40, that's alien shit. Like that's wild. Yeah, I mean, to be running a sub 1.6 10-yard split, he has got burst for days. It's covered up with his name. I believe he had about a 40-inch vert.
Let's see.
Yep, 40-inch vert, 10-10 broad.
Banner is not perfectly placed. Yeah, is that 40 plane? Yeah, 40 straight.
44. I mean, the guy's an absolute freak athlete. I would shout out if you follow Hail Mary Sports. He does a lot of great draft content too. This has been his guy, man. This has been his guy going back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like, you get it in the draft, you kind of relate certain prospects with certain have really been all about it. There's no freaking question that Lawrence is his dude. But I'll tell you, man, after that, the tape, the production, the size profile, the explosiveness, the speed, and particularly if you're somebody in a draft that is looking for that certain archetype, like take my Falcons, for example. We're dealing with this James Pierce Jr. drama. This would probably be about the closest you could get to that if you were replacing that as somebody in that 250 range with that explosive first step and closes on the quarterback. Not gets a lot of pressures, pushes him up in the pocket, puts him on his backside. This would probably be the best you were going to do. I could see him going second round.
Yeah, that's what I've I like Alex too at Hail Mary Sports. I watch a lot of his videos. I don't think anybody does more draft content than that kid. But and yet he's good too. He does a lot of draft content.
Yeah.
He's actually one I told he should get on the case on the iHank or because he goes to SMU. Like, just go ask the brother how old he was or what year it was or who was president or whatever when they moved here. I'm like, you don't have to ask directly, just round about that thing. But listen, moving on. This is a guy you're going to introduce me and us to, because I got to be honest, he was not on my radar. But you mentioned him in a recent tweet as having made the most money at the combine, potentially. I believe it was pound for pound, made the most money at the combine. So tell us a little bit about Carson Sherrar, where you think his draft range is and NFL projection.
I mean, look, I think if you looked at media right now, nobody's been talking about this guy. Nobody. I haven't seen him much around, but to go get 95th, 96th percentile athleticism, somebody that needs that with his body. Yeah, is he more of the modern linebacker size of that 230, 231? Yes, closer to the modern as somebody who wouldn't have even been a linebacker 10, 15 years ago. To go and hang those elite greats, explosive grades, and the speed. Because, I think sometimes, um, I think sometimes you look at this guy and be like, oh, he's a solid Iowa linebacker. It's like, this guy's 95, 96 percentile athlete. And he's someone I'm going to dive back and watch a little more tape wise. I had a general understanding of him going into the combine, but I think in a very good linebacker class, this is an example of somebody that threw his name in the hat that might not have been there, even if it's media, even if it's draft boards. And look, all those Iowa players, and you see it with them, they're so well coached and they're prepared. And no, he's one. If you took somebody from this episode that you have likely not heard of, haven't watched a clip, and you want to get someone new, this might be the person to say, go give them a look. If you want to be somebody that has some sleepers on your board, they're throwing out some different names here down the stretch.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sounds good. There were a couple guys there who had at the linebacker position who really kind of stole the show. Obviously, you had Sonny Styles, Caleb Elam's or Caleb Elam's
He
put up
was
a
hitting 20 plus
9.71
miles an hour
RAS.
at the Senior Bowl, man. He is athletic as all get out.
Who's that? Elam's or?
Yes.
How did he look?
He tested well. Like I said, at the Senior Bowl, he really popped with that 20 plus mile an hour speed. I had a great clip of him just running over a running back. I mean, kid likes contact, a lot of athletic ability. I like him as a sleeper. I've got him and Jack Kelly out of BYU as my two preferences for a day 3 Falcons linebacker.
Nice. All right. Now, listen, you're a Georgia guy. We've already established that. Just to kind of wrap things up here, tell us some interesting shit, some good shit, whatever, about Georgia football, some stuff draft related to this, maybe last year's draft, maybe next year's draft. I mean, we have a Georgia guy from last year on the roster. And maybe we'll have some from this year. I don't know. I do like Micah Morris too. You had mentioned him earlier. He was another guard prospect that I've looked at a lot of these guys in that range. So, give us an interesting nugget, something that isn't, well known, maybe that only a Georgia guy would know.
Yeah, I think, if you looked at this draft, the previous, and then looking into next year, one thing that's interesting is, and this year we don't have as much like the first round conversation guys, but there's always a balance of, like, take Oscar Delp, for example. Oscar Delp is being looked at as kind of like a day 3 tight end, not a lot of production, but the short area burst is elite, great blocker, 6'5", 245. There's those guys. Like, hell, look at the picture you put up there. Number 7, Lawson Lucky will be that version next year at tight end. Great kid, good production when shown, but we really don't throw to those tight ends a lot. But got great athletes. He's a hellaciously good blocker. He's somebody I think if he'd entered this draft, he would have gotten taken on day 3. That's just, saying year over year. You'll see that next year. But there will also be names like Nate Frazier, running back. I think will be one of the top 3 running backs taken next year. Great burst. He's out of Mater Day High School, one of, if not the elite high school in high school football out of California. Big time player. If he was in this draft, he'd have been a top 3 running back taken. Ellis Robinson, the 4th at corner. I think that kid's primed up to be a top 15 pick next year. Shut down corner. He and Leonard Moore out of Notre Dame will be the top 2 corners off the board next year, in my opinion. And then lastly, you got like a KJ Bolden at safety. Kind of that Malachi Starks archetype of player out of Buford here, has started as a freshman for Kirby Smart. I mean, that's an accomplishment in itself. Real leader, rangy as hell. So all that to say, it's like, oh yeah, there's talent coming up big time. There's definitely talent coming up big time. And then there will be more that come along, like you said this year. Micah Morris, Oscar Delp, Dalen Everett, who had a strong showing at the Senior Bowl and then went and ran the 4.3s in Indianapolis. there's going to be more and more of that. There's always players coming through. But yeah, would very much like to see them take this next step and get back to that 2021, 2022 span of winning national championships.
Yeah, you mentioned Dalen Everett there. He's a guy that's interested me because he's got all the skills, and it just seems like he steps up in the right moments in the big games. His numbers aren't like his ball production and all that hasn't been what you would like for a top cornerback prospect, but his performance at the combine, how he looks on the field, kind of the athleticism, the gifts he's got, and again, just the ability to step up in the big moment in the big game, that really gets my attention. But if there's any way you could give us maybe like I don't know, quick 30-second, 45-second on Oscar Delp, because that's a guy that a lot of local Patriots reporters have mocked to us around about round three-ish. And I know he did have that, he had, I believe it was that they discovered a hairline fracture in his foot at the combine. So do you expect that to impact his draft stock or his performance for that matter at the next level?
No, not really. I think, for starters, he played the entire season on that. He is tough, man. He's tough, tough, tough team player. I mean, I can remember him coming out of West Forsyth High School here locally. His profile was incredible short area burst. He's lengthy, great blocker. Like I said, 6'5", 245. And that's his frame. Like that's what he is. You're taking him with that body. That's the body he's going to have in 10 years probably. But a lot of experience. Never heard a negative word of him out of the program. And he's somebody that I really do think a few years ago, I said when James Cook was coming out, I said, I think James Cook's going to be a better pro than he was in Athens. And that was an absolute homer.
Yeah.
I think not to that degree, but I think of this last year or two or so, Delp's a guy that ends up being a better pro than he was in Athens just because he gets the volume of catches.
And you think the lack of production, that's 100% system?
It's system. Growing up, it was always the selling point. They're like, oh, if you're a tight end recruit, you want to go to Georgia. The Leonard Popes, the Ben Watsons, some of those guys that really got the ball a lot. Now, Todd Hartley, our tight end coach, I think pound for pound is as good a recruiter in the country. And those guys ultimately do get noticed, like seeing Delp here where he gets taken. I think he ends up being around a 4th round guy. But just the volume of catches, I mean, for perspective, if you look at this Georgia team this year, which they need to find a little more balance next season with this, Zachariah Branch had 81 catches. The second place receiver had 27 catches. That's too much disparity, as far as spreading it out a little bit, Is that a comment on Mike Bobo at offensive coordinator? Is that a comment on Gunnar Stockton at quarterback? Is that a comment? Because it's like there's plenty of talent. I mentioned Lawson Lucky. I mentioned Oscar Delp. I mentioned Nate Frazier in the backfield. Hell, got another tight end, Elias Williams, 6'7" plus kid coming up. As far as that intermediate up the seams receiving, but all that to say, it's like, no, man, I'd be excited about him. And kind of like I said earlier, I can't remember what player it was. I said about, man, it was Blake Miller. It's like coming from playing for Kirby and being one of his favorites and all about the game and the business of it. It's like, oh yeah, Vrabel would absolutely love him. And the last thing I'd say about him is he was that guy on the team that I always knew that if a scrum was going to go down, he'd be ready to throw punches for somebody. Like, this dude's tough. Oh yeah. He's a good one.
Nice. Yeah, that reminds me of earlier you had mentioned the Crown. No, who was it that was getting into the fights at the
Max?
Yeah, I Hank and it was like Derek Moore was just mad that Or was the only dude he couldn't beat, like because Moore was having a day at the Senior Bowl until he ran in to I however you Max. That's what we're gonna go with. Okay, old Max. All right. Well, listen, we're going to wrap the show up there. We've kept you a few minutes over the hour. I apologize. We appreciate your time in a big way, Clint.
Thanks for having me. We went over because I'm a talker myself.
No, it's everybody, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, and share. Again, Clint, you want to throw out your Twitter handle? It's right there, right?
Yeah, you can find that handle on Twitter or YouTube. The YouTube's a newer development. Very very active on Twitter, or you could look up my namesake Clint Goss, 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 not gross.
Yeah, help him go subscribe to his channel. Help him. This whole grind of building YouTube subscribers is exhausting. So go give him a like, give him a subscribe. It's free, it's nice, and it's going to give you a lot of good information if you're interested in the NFL, the NFL draft, or Georgia football. Guys, have a great day. Thanks for tuning in. I will see you tomorrow. Newt Weston is going to join me. It's going to
Good
be
one.
pre-recorded. It won't be live. Yeah, Newt's a good one. I like Newt. And the beard. You got to love the beard. All right.
Yeah,
Mad
Newt's
respect.
Newt's one of the better guys in this community.
Yeah, no. So I'll have him on. I'm going to pre record tonight. I'll release it about 9 a.m. tomorrow, as I usually do. So, everyone, have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.